Welcome back to the Subtract tutorial series. In this episode, we are going to talk about something every beginner struggles with: how to approach a new project, especially when you want to build something real, scalable, and production ready. This is not just about Subtract, it's about learning a mindset, a way of thinking that helps you build any app confidently. So here we'll be looking at the biggest mistake beginners make. And the first one here, you can just categorize this as the common mistakes beginners make. The first one is starting to code immediately without proper planning. Mixing UI, data, and logic into one file. I'm going to cover all this in the next slides. Then we have copying UI from Figma or Dribble without understanding structure at all. Fourth one is not knowing what features they actually want to build. And then finally, not thinking about scalability. Beginners try to build the entire app in one go, but professionals break the app into smaller, clear tasks. Then we have the first step of building a project, a scalable project. The first thing is understanding the problem you are solving. Before writing a single line of code, you need to ask yourself a question. What does the app actually do? Who is it for? What problem does it solve daily? And what must the user achieve inside the app? For Subtract, the core problem is users forget their subscription payment and end up overspending. So for an app like that, the user must be able to track subscription. The app must be able to track subscriptions, show upcoming renewals, calculate spending, send reminders, suggest cheaper alternatives. Okay? This is the first thing you need to know, understanding the problem that you are solving. Then secondly, it's about breaking features into simpler tasks. Instead of thinking, I want to build a subscription tracker app, break it into tiny pieces. Let's say, for example, now, for a subscription tracking app, we need to add a new subscription. That's one feature we need to have in mind. Store subscription locally, because in this we are using Hive. But if you are storing it with a cloud database, you also need to put that in place. Show them in a list. That's the third one. The fourth one, calculate monthly cost and annual cost to help users to view their spending summary and all that. Then the fifth one is display upcoming renewals, because it's very important for a subscription-based app like this to be able to alert users when their renewal is approaching or when it's about to expire. So you need to put that in mind. Then sixth is send notifications. Just like displaying upcoming renewals, we need to set the notifications to users in case they are not actively using the app. They need to see the notifications, right, so that they will not forget. And also 7, analyze categories, where you have categories like entertainment, software, and UI. You need to analyze them, group them into a chart, enabling users to be able to know what they are spending much on and what they are spending less on. Okay, that will help them make better decisions. Then we have the AI suggestion feature in this app, which is helping users to be able to know other subscriptions that have lesser plan, that cost less, so they will know how to make better choices and whether they should cancel their current plan and upgrade to the new suggested plan in order to save money and all that. So when you outline all these things, your brain now knows exactly what to build. Then the third one is plan the data first. This is where we talk about data-driven development. Before UI, think about data models. For Subtract, for example, we need the name. When you are adding a new subscription, you need the name of the subscription, which has a data type of string. You need the monthly cost. You need the next billing date, which is a date time. Monthly cost, you can use double, but I know int is not really good or advice for amount-based model or data, right? So you need to outline all these data models. You also need the billing cycle, if it's monthly, yearly, or daily, right? Then we have the category to know where the subscription falls under, whether entertainment, software utilities and all that. So if you're building another project, you can also take the same approach to your other project, outline the features, outline the data models. Okay, so once you define your model, once you define your data, everything else becomes easier. It helps you solve 60% of the app if your data model is right. Okay, then the next one here is sketch before you code. Use paper, a notebook, or Figma, right? Don't jump straight to your Flutter UI. Don't jump to, if you're a web developer, don't jump directly into your UI and start building. Okay, try to sketch everything. When you sketch, it helps you to visualize the flow. Like we're using Subtract as an example. Now we have the dashboard layout. We have the add subscription form screen. We have the category analysis where we use FL charts to display the data. We have the notification list and the AI suggestion model. All these things needs to be outlined. Sketch it with paper. If you don't have a designer, you don't know how to use Figma, sketch it with paper, right? Draw your whole outline on a piece of paper, a notebook, and all that. That will help you to visualize the whole flow before you start writing your code. Then the sixth point here is structure your project early. Okay, if say you're a Flutter developer now, for instance, there are various ways that you can structure your project. You can structure it maybe using layer first approach, feature first approach, and lots of them. If you're from a different background to, let's say, a different tech stack, web and all that, you also need to know how to structure your folders properly. So the reason why I'm emphasizing on the structuring of folder is because it helps your project to be clean. It helps your project to be scalable in case you want to, scale in the future. It's easier to maintain that way when your project is properly organized and structured. And it also matches professional standards as well. When you structure early, you avoid messy code later. All right. So the next point here is build in iterations. Don't overcomplicate things. A lot of people coming into the tech space don't really understand what MVP is all about. You need to understand the MVP approach. MVP stands for minimum viable products. You need to understand this approach to be able to pick on projects, break them into iterations so that you don't need to overcomplicate things in the future and all that. So here is a little MVP approach that let's say the first MVP is more like, let's say you have planned your project, you have your UI, everything ready. Then before you start coding, let's say you structured your project, right? You've gotten a clear folder that you want to use. So what you need to do in the MVP1 stage is to include the primary features, which is more like the first release. Say you are building a subscription app now, you need to add subscriptions, store them locally, and then show lists. Those are very important. And also, you need to implement notifications. You can include that in the first features because they are very important before you push it, release it, maybe for testing, for users to test and all that. Then the second part is MVP 2 plus and above. You will start patching, updates, fixing bugs. Then you can include other secondary features. You can include new features, improve app, fix issues. You can improve it based on users' feedback, based on maybe if you have a stakeholder meeting and all that, you can improve it based on their decision or based on what you have already outlined in the previous sections, like identify the problem, identifying the features and all that, okay? So these are things you need to have in mind when it comes to MVP approach. It helps your products to be easier. That way you don't overcomplicate things. Then we have the seventh step here, which is think production early, even as a beginner. Thinking production early is not for professionals alone. You need to have that habit as you're learning. Then from the beginning stage, you can now advance to the professional. That way, there's this saying that says you cannot teach an old dog new tricks, right? So you need to be able to understand this thing, think production early, even as a beginner. So one thing you want to take note of is your naming conventions. There are a lot of YouTube videos that covers naming conventions. You need to know how to name your functions, your files, your classes, your variables, and all that, okay? Also, your coding patterns, you need to pay attention to that. Commenting of code is very important, especially if you're not the only one working on the project. Even though you're the only one working on the project, also know how to comment code, because in the future, you will also visit that code. So if you don't have any comments and you did not write the code properly, you will end up confused when you see your project or your code. At that point, you will not be asking yourself, who wrote this project? Who wrote this thing? How could I be so stupid to write something like this, right? You'll be having all those kind of thoughts and questions. Then the other one is keeping widgets clean. You need to know how to keep your widgets clean. Also, avoid logic inside UI. This is where we talk about separation of concern. Welcome back to the Subtrack tutorial series. In this episode, we are going to talk about something every beginner struggles with: how to approach a new project, especially when you want to build something real, scalable, and production ready. This is not just about Subtrack. It's about learning a mindset, a way of thinking that helps you build any app confidently. So here we'll be looking at the biggest mistake beginners make. So write code today that future you will understand tomorrow. Alright, so the next one now I want to talk about is test as you go. Introduce functional testing early. I'll just say it's more like when you have like 100% of developers, we'll say like 20% write unit and widget testing. All right. A lot of developers, especially beginners, they don't even prioritize unit and widget testing and all those stuff, right? That one aside, but you also need to know how to write those unit testing, to write simple units of your code, to test simple units of your code before you send it to QA or build it in your mobile application. But another one I need you to really pay attention about is functional testing. It's all about manually testing on different variation, different screen sizes, to know how your project is going to perform or how it's going to appear before pushing it out for users to test. Test the UI interactions, make sure everything are working. Check if you're using date input, make sure they're working properly. And if your project is based on date time, you need to ask yourself, what will happen if users change, let's say backdate their local time? Will it affect the functionality of your app? Those are things that you need to take note of, and then you look for solutions to solve it. Try to handle different edge cases. If you're handling subscription, try to see how it works. Try to do a lot of things, okay? So when you test in small parts, you end up reducing bugs in your project. All right, so this is the 8 points. Then I think that's pretty much everything I want you guys to know in this section. And then just a summary of what I said so far is: understand the problem, break into tasks, define your data-driven development, sketch your UI, structure the project, have a proper folder structuring, build in phases, have your MVP approach in mind, don't overcomplicate things. Then think like a production engineer. All right. So now that you understand how to approach this project the right way, you are ready to build the actual UI and start coding Subtrack with confidence, or any app with confidence. See you in the next episode.